Africa, a continent which in the last decades has made leaps and bounds on the road to economic transformation and development. It is one of the only continents which not only weathered the global financial crisis and bounced back, but exhibits strong economic growth. Today, the continent is full steam ahead in transforming its economies and strengthening its fragile states. It's embracing change by making sure that all layers of its societies are represented in decision-making. It's facilitating access to education for all, promoting regional integration by building bridges and roads, and looking for ways to bring energy and modern technology to even the most remote rural areas. The continent is also markedly ahead of many others in its openness to embrace green growth and adapt itself to climate change. And this is thanks in many ways to some of the partnerships it's made along the way. One of those partners has been the African Development Bank Group. Its unique hands-on approach and in-depth knowledge and understanding of how to best serve the interests of the continent are at the heart of their success and sets the AFDB apart from all other institutions. The African Development Fund was created in 1972, specifically to play a part in the development of the continent's fragile states and poorest nations. The ADF is the African Development Bank Group's window for grants and loans. Over the past 40 years, it's invested over $36 billion in over 4,000 carefully selected projects, which all have one common goal: ensuring that Africa pushes forward on its road to develop, flourish, and achieve its full potential. So here's a closer look at some of the ADF's success stories, successes which are proof of the merits of its unique hands-on approach and its definite expertise on the continent. Because Africa is such a large continent, linking regions together is key to breaking them out of isolation, promoting trade, and fostering employment. An 800-kilometer stretch of road between Mali and Senegal, referred to as the Bamako-Dakar corridor, was completed in 2011. In both countries, one of the major impacts of the project is the opening up of several landlocked areas. Today, the change is visible everywhere the corridor passes. The project created employment opportunities for local residents to the tune of $5 million during the construction phase. Several workers are still employed to do routine maintenance work. Beyond the construction of the road itself, it's brought social and economic benefits to communities along its path, such as this health center in the Malian town of Mahinamin. In total, 10 health centers were built in both countries. In both Senegal and Mali, complementary projects help rehabilitate 100 kilometers of rural roads, build fences for primary schools, as well as furnish classrooms. The Bamako-Dakar corridor that was built with $304 million is the result of a partnership between Mali, Senegal, and several donors such as the African Development Fund. The ADF contributed $89 million, about 30% of the project total cost. It also led to the creation of other projects, notably to support agriculture and food security, one of the priorities of the ADF. The Barney River Development Scheme is an example of proven success with the Tallow Wire, a major hydraulic project. The ADF provided nearly three-quarters of the cost.
This is a very, very important project. The new structure has several functions. The first is to provide irrigation. The second function is to open up the zone. A bridge above the weir connects the two river banks and enables distribution of agricultural products. The third function is the control of the water level of the Barney River. That's very important. Decades ago, the River Barney was dry between Duna and Djenné.
It's benefited nearly 65,000 people in the area, including 1,300 women, trained in money-making activities and who received bank credits, which were channeled through an association called CANEF. Since it began operating, land on the banks of the Wire have been prepared and allocated to local farmers, who have since been able to fully participate in feeding their communities. Only major investments in the control of water resources can bring about self-sufficiency and food production. But controlling water resources also means ensuring that even the most remote communities have access to clean waters. Let's head out to Boma in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the ADF, along with several other international partners, funded the rehabilitation of the area's sole water processing plant. This project has brought real solutions in terms of the supply of potable water in the city of Boma, both in quantity and in quality.
Je suis le maire de la ville de Boma. Voilà le fleuve Congo. Nous sommes au point de captage d'eau de la régie des eaux. C'est par ici que l'eau est captée, il est usiné et puis il est distribué à la population.
This factory has a considerable impact on the life of the local people. Before the project, less than half of Boma's population had water. Today, 80% of the city's population has potable water. Water also brought security in the city.
À longueur d'une journée, une femme pouvait parcourir 5-6 kilomètres parce que vous ne savez pas où vous allez trouver de l'eau. Et la nuit, je vous assure que pendant un certain moment, il y a beaucoup de violences faites à la femme qui se faisaient sentir dans la ville, des femmes qui se faisaient violer.
And if water is first for drinking, it's also used for all household activities. Water is also for washing. The health situation has improved significantly thanks to the presence of potable water, especially for young children. Waterborne diseases begin with small children before catching up with adults because they're so very fragile. As much as the African Development Fund focuses on remote communities, it also knows that urban centers, which are the nerve center of every country, are also in need of rehabilitation. A different set of problems, a different set of solutions. Large African cities have had a hard time keeping up with expansion, industrialization, and tremendous increase in traffic. Disengorging them became a priority. In the Kenyan capital of Nairobi, for instance, lack of highways and proper road infrastructures made it nearly impossible for certain city dwellers to travel to work. The costs of public transportation were rocket high because of the time they took to move from one area of the city to the other. Children had great difficulty getting to schools.
Imenisavia time, like nakazima man. Nikitoka shule nikienda home, I'm guaranteed that nitafika mapema. Then kama natoka home nikikuja shule, I'm sure sita late. Kutoka home natoka kitu some minutes to 8 and by 8 nitakuwa shule already.
The city desperately needed to improve its network of roads and tunnels. So in 2009, the Kenyan government joined hands with the African Development Bank Group to build an 8-lane superhighway connecting Nairobi to the industrial town of Thika, a 50.4-kilometer stretch of road which has already begun transforming the entire landscape and economy of the area.
I thank the African Development Bank, which has partnered with us in the financing of many infrastructure projects across the country.
So I want to salute the wisdom of the Kenya government here. Infrastructure is a means to an end. The end is trade and movement of people and goods. That is the way to go. We need more connectivity, roads, waterways, urban systems, rails, and so on. This is how you construct an economy. You begin at the beginning.
In addition, the superhighway has also tremendous ramifications in terms of regional integration. It easily now connects to feeder roads, which lead to neighboring countries desperately in need of disenclavement. Tanzania and Ethiopia now have access to the Kenyan capital, which has helped bolster trade and employment across East Africa. But as countries interconnect, it's also important to secure borders and curb illegal trafficking. So the African Development Fund has backed several border control projects like the single border post between Burundi and Rwanda, a way to ensure that the two countries can easily manage trade safely and improve fruitful cooperation. Moving to neighboring Uganda now, where one of the country's main concerns there was to reduce their energy deficit. Their lack of energy resources meant some communities had very unreliable electricity.
It affects her performance at school because we don't have enough light. We are using lanterns.
After much research on how to serve Uganda's energy needs, a hydropower-generated energy project was selected. It was called the Bujugali Project. Unique because in this case, it represents one of the largest private-public partnerships ever to see the light in sub-Saharan Africa. Constructed at a cost of $900 million, Bujugali has been jointly developed by Industrial Promotion Services, the infrastructure and industrial development arm of the Aga Khan Fund for Industrial Development, the US-based Scythe Global Power, Blackstone, and the government of Uganda. The ADF here was one of the number of lenders backing private sector development. A successful model which is earmarked as key in Africa's economic transformation. And Bujugali not only helps Uganda meet its power needs, it also puts Uganda at the forefront of green development. Renewable energy is taking precedence over all other kinds of energy sources. Dams, solar panels, this newer and greener form of power drives costs down and enables even the most remote areas to have access to electricity. And if we're just now starting to see renewable energy take precedence across the continent, moving forward, creating green economies will be key to the continent's success by educating farmers on modern tools and promoting agribusiness to promote small and medium entrepreneurship. African countries address several issues at once: workforce training, employment, food security, and climate change. That's what the African Development Fund has been striving to support. Halfway through its 12th program, the $9 billion made available by the ADF for the period from 2011 to 2013 has had a real and tangible impact on improving the lives of the people in the countries it serves. In Liberia, for instance, minimal road, education, and health infrastructure had fallen into a state of serious disrepair, and a dearth of employment opportunities in the southeastern region of the country contributed to social unrest and insecurity. In 2007, a cross-country road project with the support of the ADF was designed to rehabilitate the 130-kilometer Fishtown-Harper Road and a further 600-kilometer of feeder roads in the country. It took 5 years to build and fully included the training and participation of the local population, particularly youth and women. The project was inaugurated in 2012 and applauded by the Liberian president, who thanked the AFDB president himself for the project's success, while underlining that her own country, along with Africa's other fragile states, still need much support from the bank to address the development challenges left by years of civil unrest. In Sierra Leone, for instance, populations are being trained now on ensuring their own food security and sustainability. In Chad, schools are being built to give younger generations a chance to play a part in moving their country forward. These are all ongoing projects backed by the ADF, which have a direct impact on people's lives. Continued efforts, more support. As the ADF now prepares to enter its 13th cycle, significant challenges do remain, especially in poor countries and fragile states. Water levels in Lake Chad, one of the world's biggest lakes, have fallen dramatically in the past decades, and it has come to symbolize the effects of climate change. The worsening situation of the basin, which supplies over 20 million people with water, has prompted the African Development Bank to launch an ambitious program to restore the lake's ecosystem. But efforts to save the lake are far from over. Some of the persistent inequalities of incomes, assets, and opportunities are constraining people from benefiting from the progress that is taking place on the African continent. Moving forward, the ADF plans on focusing even more of its efforts on fragile states, helping women and children find their rightful place in society, boosting agriculture to ensure food security, and making sure governments are held accountable for the work undertaken. If the transformation of Africa is to take real root, and if the continent's economies are to work together, if a little girl is to do her homework by the light of an electric bulb, and if Africa is to have its place in the sun, then the ADF is ready. The African Development Fund, 40 years on, listening and working together to change lives.